Welcome to Safe and Sound, sponsored by White Mountain Fire and Life Safety. Today on the show, we have Commander Dave Sargent from Pinetop Lakeside Police Department. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Allie. Thanks for the invite.
And thank you. I love it when you come on the show.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
So today we're going to talk about, it's called Blue Courage. Okay,
Yeah.
and what that is. So I'm just going to let you have the floor with that.
Okay, well, if anybody's been watching the news lately, they know that there have been things that have been going on across the nation that have called into question the actions of police. And I'm not here to judge, and we really should be kind of careful about judgment, because when we see clips on the news, it's not the whole totality of the situation. But we do know that there have been some instances where police have not acted probably in the best way for everybody involved. And so because of those actions, it's caused us to step back the police culture and ask, why are these things going on and why are these things happening? And the president's got a commission who's looking into 21st century policing. We have a woman by the name Sue Rahr who's going to be coming out here in February to talk to us. Chief Wheeler was instrumental in getting her here to speak. She'll be in the Valley, but we'll get a chance to go down and see her there, talking about what is coming in the 21st century as far as policing. And the bottom line, between that commission and this Blue Courage program, it's that police need to get back to the nobility of policing, get back to our roots. When we look at over the years what's been happening in police cultures, we've been training officers with the skill sets, and we've been giving them plenty of tool sets to go out and deal with the problems that are in the community and that the community is facing. But the part that's starting to be missed is the heart set and the mindset. And I'll give you an example. When you're on an airplane and that flight attendant comes out and she says, okay, if we experience a loss of cabin pressure here, oxygen masks will fall from the ceiling, right? Mm-hmm. What's the instructions?
You put it on you before you put it on somebody else.
To put it on you before you put it on someone else. So we're asking officers to go out and put oxygen masks on people, figuratively, but are we putting those masks on officers before they go out? Are we equipping them with what they need to go out? And that's where Blue Courage cuts through the skill sets and the tool sets and gets deeper into the heart set and the mindset of the officer responding to the call. Why am I here? Am I doing the right thing for the right reason? Practical wisdom, making sure they're exercising practical wisdom, which is basically the right way to do something at the right time. And it examines our motives. It examines, and I'll give you another example. Back when officers graduate the academy, we're all excited that, hey, look, we get to go out and help people, because that's why people get into this job, is they get into this job to help people. And then usually sometime in their career, things happen and that can go sour. So if they don't keep in their mind the reason that they got into this, for instance, when you come out of that academy, you're excited and pumped to go out and start helping people in the community. And when you go out and you help those people in the community, there's a reward. There's something that comes back from that. But we get too much we get away from that. I think we get away from that when we're dealing with our officers in training. We're not including the reason why. For instance, the reason why we're doing felony stops ultimately is to keep us safe and to keep them safe. But when you start interjecting heart set and mindset into that, the picture changes dramatically. When you start treating everybody that you come across as a member of your family, that picture changes 180 degrees.
But isn't that hard to do? I mean, and I'm an advocate for our police force. I appreciate everything that they do, and they are advocates. But you're constantly in areas dealing with, when you get called, it's usually people, they have no respect for the cops. They're not, I don't want to say they're not good people. They're not making good choices at the time. And there you are trying to stop them, whether they're doing drugs or the dangerous situation that you're coming into all the time. It's not like they're like, oh, officer, come on in. Yes, we have some PCP over here in the corner and things are happening, everything's
Sure.
okay. You're coming into things and constantly dealing with the bad side of a situation the majority of the time.
Well, the nobility of policing demands not only that we respond to that, but that we respond to it appropriately. And when you have at your heart a set of core values that you operate by, you can actually go into those situations and you can give people as much respect as they will allow you to give them.
Or earn.
Now, we're not asking officers, and certainly I would never go in and put my guard down to speak kindly to someone. But we need to start the conversation kindly. If they decide that they're going to escalate that, then we have to match that escalation. If we see that it's about to escalate, sometimes we have to escalate before. I mean, we develop a sixth sense pretty quick. When we go up on a traffic stop and something's not right and the hair stands up on the back of our neck, we're not asking officers to ignore that. What we're asking officers to do is, in all of the other times that you have traffic stops where that doesn't happen, that you treat people with respect. For instance, when I do a traffic stop, I will always introduce myself and I'll always tell them the reason that they're being stopped before any other conversation takes place. You're a citizen, you're operating a highway on a vehicle on the highway or on the roadway, and I've now interfered with your liberty to move. And that stop demands an explanation before we do anything else. The only time that that's going to be an exception is now you're robbing a bank and you've got a gun, and you know what, that changes and it's set by the person who did that action. But if you're being stopped for a traffic offense, the first thing out of my mouth is, my name's Commander Sargent with the Pinetop Lakeside Police Department. The reason that I have stopped you is da-da-da-da-da. I've never been, and I don't think that police officers should be involved in this game of, do you know why I did this, or do you know why I did that, or initiating that stop with a reprimand. We need to project respect if we're going to receive respect back, and that's what is at the basis of this program in all that we do. So if we can change our heart and our mind, the way that we look at situations, the way that we look at others and other people, that these people are the people that we're serving. This is who we're serving. That's where you get the nobility of policing back, is that truly people who serve have at their heart a compassion and empathy for the people that they're serving, regardless of who it is.
So through this program, the thought is by doing this, it's going to help change the culture of people. They won't, instead of people constantly wanting to attack the cops because they think the cops are there to attack them, they're going to be, oh, wait a minute, this guy's being really cool. We can actually have a conversation instead of me just being disrespectful from the beginning.
Well, let's look at that for just a minute. So there are people that when they see a news story, they immediately, all right, I'm done with my respect for police officers. They don't know the totality of the situation. They don't know really what went on there. They're hearing a news report. So they're basing their decision on incomplete, inaccurate information.
Yes.
We don't want our officers doing that. Even if they're treated poorly, we don't want our officers doing that. We want our officers to rise to the occasion to restore this nobility of policing and respect people in all of their contexts that they have, even if those people are in their face. You know, you see these guys down on these protest lines that can just stand there and receive all of those insults. We want our officers to make sure that before they act, they're acting for the right reason, doing the right thing for the right reason, and that they're not getting caught up in the adrenaline dump of the moment. In fact, this program talks a lot about adrenaline dumps and how you need to try to separate yourself from that and push that to your advantage. One of the things in police culture that has been taught over the last several years is that police are warriors. Yeah, they are warriors. But in the job of policing, you only have to pull that warrior mindset out or use that warrior part of you half of a percent of the time. The rest of the time, you're supposed to be being a guardian to the Constitution, a guardian to the people. And if you let yourself get caught up in all of that hype, if you let yourself get caught up in that moment and you start making poor decisions, we see what happens. It affects everybody else that's wearing a badge. It affects everybody else that's seeing the action of the police officer. So that's what this program is pointed towards, is causing inside the officer's heart and mind a de-escalation of things, and only escalating when it's appropriate, not escalating off of someone's snide comment or someone's snide remark, but allowing them respect even though we're not being respected. It's not against the law to disrespect police officers. It's unfortunate that we are where we are, but I think that officers can do a lot and departments can do a lot to make sure that we're building relationships of trust in the community, and that we restore that nobility of policing, so that by and large people, again, that respect is given back to police officers.
I hope that through this program and I commend police officers for doing this and taking the initiative to work on programs like this. That's brilliant. My concern is the disrespectful community members that don't show the respect for officers. And one of my husband the other day, we were driving in my truck, and he goes, "Oh, we have to stop off and I have to get a light." And I said, "For what?" And he's all, "Your license plate light is out." And I was like, "Who's going to see my light? How'd you even know that?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I turn on the car and I check the car all the time. Allie, I do it once a month." And I'm like, "Why are you doing that once a month? I mean, the car is good. I drive it every day, and I'm looking at it from another thing going, oh yeah, the oil gets changed. We're good."
Sure.
And he's like, "No, I'm looking at it protecting you, protecting a police officer." He's like, "Because if you get pulled over because you don't have that little light on there, then what if he's in traffic? What if, then it's just a waste of your time stopping, and it puts him in a situation that you don't want." And I'm like, I sat there, I was like, gosh, I wish more people would think of you. Think like you do when it comes to when you're making sure your vehicle can run, and you're making sure you don't have a crack across the windshield, or you're making sure that you don't have these subtle things that could get you pulled over and cause, he calls it the risk ladder. For instance, he says, like, when you're on your motorcycle, if you don't wear gear, it's a risk. It used to go up a rung. If you're not speeding, it's up a rung. And it's the same thing. If people started looking at it as a risk, like, okay, not only am I putting myself in this danger, I'm putting this cop, and there was respect for each other's lives. Because currently, right now, which infuriates me, is cops are being killed for nothing.
Yeah, they are, and
I mean,
but we also understand that that's not the community at large. That's doing that. Those are exceptions in the community, and that's where we have to be careful that it's not us against them, and that's not the picture, the accurate picture of who our community is, especially in this small town here. I came from a metro monster. My biggest surprise when I came up here is that people would wave at you with all of their fingers. So, and that's true. So, in a smaller town, in a smaller community, you're closer to that community. So you ask the question, how do we get the community to change that perspective? And that is with the context that we have with them, one contact at a time, one traffic stop at a time, and I don't think that we have the issue in Pinetop Lakeside Show Low that we have on the national level. You actually have officers in this area that are good officers, and a lot of them do practice these virtues of policing, which in their actions you can see the nobility of policing. But if I could, when I was at this training, and I just came back from that, we talked before, one of the things that came up is they got a hold of one of our department coins. And our department coin, we've had these coins now, we started the design in 2013. I designed this coin. My chief Chief Ron Wheeler put the slogan on the back of it. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But when we had these made in January, February of 2014, and when the people at Blue Courage saw this, they grabbed onto it and they said, "Oh, we want to use this. Can we use this?" And I said, "Yeah, you can use this." And now this coin will be talked about in every Blue Courage class that's taught from here on out, was my understanding from the founder. In addition to that, this made it, my understanding is in the report on 21st century policing, and may end up actually on the president's desk before the week's out. So by talking to you about this briefly, I can tell you what we've done over the last year to try to get this in our officers' minds, and we do it a step at a time. The coin was the first step, and the second step is a hallway, and if we can get to there, we'll talk about the hallway. But this coin, and we shot a picture of it, has a Constitution on the front with a badge in front of the Constitution, but it's smaller than the Constitution. The badge is in front to protect the Constitution, and it's smaller to remind us that this is what we took our oath to. The Constitution is the thing that's bigger than ourselves, the ideals that are bigger than ourselves, which we aspire to uphold and maintain. The only words on the document that are visible are "we the people." That's who it is that we serve. The coin does say "serve and uphold the Constitution," and then there's two little 8s, and it's the symbol of infinity on both sides of the coin. And that's to show that the principles that this Constitution puts into life every day for us are eternal principles that if we follow and if we serve appropriately, the Republic will never perish from the face of the earth. Then there we have these 2 compass points that are punched out. That's to keep our mind pointed to the virtues that the Constitution establishes. That if we are true and faithful to the truth and the knowledge that's in those, again, these are principles that are eternal. Then on the back, we have the motto, "doing the right thing for the right reason." We ask officers to put this in their pocket every single morning. And in fact, the chief will go around and we do this back and forth and challenge each other. If they're called challenge coins. If you don't have your coin in your pocket, we owe you dinner. So, and that works both ways. So we ask officers as they pick up this coin to put it in their pocket in the morning to always check themselves with every decision that they make, that practical wisdom, am I doing the right thing for the right reason? And then again on the back is the Statue of Liberty and the Liberty Bell, which if we're doing our job correctly and we do all that we can to keep the nobility in policing, then again, the liberties of the people are preserved and upheld. So that's kind of, that's the coin. Then in our hallway, we have a picture of the Constitution with the flag over it. It's kind of a montage of the two together. And it says through these, on the wall, it says through these hallways pass the guardians of the Constitution. And that's why policing is a noble profession. We're supposed to be out there maintaining the principles and ideas that are set forth in that document. And if we do our job well, there will be no reason for someone to come in and do it for ourselves. Because I just got to tell you, that's my biggest fear, is that keeping policing local is the best place for the local people to have control of their policing. If you hand that job into the hands of somebody that sits in a distant office hundreds, maybe thousands of miles away, you're just not going to get the service that you should be.
There's a disconnect. I mean,
that's right.
That's why our forests were struggling, because we had people from Washington telling us how to take care of our forests, and look what happened.
And if you think that policing's having problems now, do that to it. And then you'll really see issues and problems.
There's nothing like that they're looking towards doing that,
There's some agencies across the nation that have already surrendered control, oversight from local to federal level.
Oh, no.
So that's another thing that this program points to, is let's keep the local aspect of policing and those Peelian principles that we talked about that were the foundation of policing, that the people are the police and the police are the people. We're supposed to be working together in this. And we talked briefly before how in the 50s officers would walk beats and they would patrol with their windows down. And now you've got air conditioning, and now you've gotten rid of patrol beats on foot. And there's this big disconnect between the people and the police. Another thing that our chief has done which I agree with, and we try to get involved with as much as possible. In fact, this morning was Shop with the Cop. We came from there to be here as getting involved with the community. Because you can't just build relationships of trust with the community on traffic stops and going to a victim's house responding to a crime. We have to be proactive in getting out into the community so the community sees who it is that they have that's doing their policing. That's another way that we build those relationships of trust with the community.
Is getting to know each other on a more personal level.
Sure.
Which is important.
Because behind every badge is a human being.
Yeah,
we're feeling beings before we're thinking beings. And I don't want to get touchy-feely here, but that's where this program goes. It must go there because there's a heart and mind connection in policing, and our heart and our minds govern all of our actions. We think everything that we do before we do it. So if we can get the thoughts straight, if we can get the heart set and the mindset straight, then there's no error in the practical application, in the things that we do and in the actions that we take.
And I definitely, and I know my family, we definitely support you guys in this venture that you guys are doing. I think this is wonderful. And as a community member, what can I do to help? I mean, is there anything I can do to help?
Well, one of the things that you can do to help is dispel that, you know, for every story that you hear, because here's the deal. I had to chuckle because the other day I heard a story about policing gone awry. And so I stopped and I said, so where did you hear that? And it was always from a friend of a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
You know what? I've got a personal story. Let me tell you about a personal story that happened to me this morning at Shop with a Cop. And bringing those personal stories and those personal interfaces that you've had with police, bringing those to the forefront when you hear people that are telling those stories that they heard from two different people and they really don't know. Because a lot of those stories, when you hear them and you stop and those people aren't doing the right thing for the right reason. And that hurts us, and it actually puts us behind the ball. But what hurts us even more is when they can cite and they can say, well, I know this firsthand, or this happened just right here in our community in town. And coming from a metro experience, I just have to tell you, there's not nearly the complaints or the issues in small towns that we have in metro agencies. So
well, you have more of a connection. It might not be a lot, but
we
it's
do.
more.
And so there you go. Why are these things happening around the nation? Well, because that connection doesn't exist. And so while the connection does exist in a small town, we're trying to do everything that we can to enhance that connection, to make that connection even more robust, to make that connection at every single level that we can make it, with every single person that we can make. And, you know, there's a quote, and this is what we want officers to do.
Okay.
Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. And if we did that, and the community did that back, those things that are going on that are crazy, that there's really no justification for, would be less and less and less until they would no longer existed in society.
Well, and you had made a point earlier that, you know, when I brought up the fact that cops are being killed for no reason, you said, yeah, but that's not everybody. You know, not every person's out there, you know, killing these cops. And then on the flip side, when you have somebody, you know, the citizens looking at this video of a cop and what he's doing, their first thing is like, oh, that's all of them.
Yeah, that's not everybody. I assure you, that's
right.
not everybody. And thank you for bringing that up, because that is the smallest minority of police officers that you see get in those situations.
Well, in some of those situations, you don't see the whole picture.
Well, most of them.
Yeah, well, I'd say all of them until the facts come out or until it's investigated or until it gets to that point. You're not going to know what happens. And like the hands up guy, I don't remember his name. It came out that, you know, he was fighting with a gun. There's a bullet hole in the car, and you had people rallying against the police. And I'm like, this was a criminal. This guy's life was in danger.
Well, and that's the other thing that's changing in our culture and our society is, do you remember 9/11? Everybody remembers 9/11.
Yes.
And everybody remembers watching the video of everybody running out of that situation. Now, there were firefighters and officers that ran into that
Yes, there was,
situation,
and they lost their lives.
and it did not end well with them. And that's usually what happens when gunfire starts happening is officers are running towards it and citizens are running away from it. I saw some disturbing video the other day, and it was of a police action in New York. And I'm watching that, and something wasn't right about it, and I'm watching it, and the instructor's saying, "What is wrong with this video?" And I knew there was something wrong there, but I couldn't put my finger on it until he said, "Look at what the citizens are doing. We got gunfire happening down the block, and everybody's running towards that gunfire like this, with their camera out. They're risking their life
To get something.
On film for their Facebook page or whatever it is that they're doing with it." And I just thought, wow, our society is changing as well.
Yeah.
And public needs to realize that when you're running towards gunfire to get video of that, you may get caught up in that. And we don't want to see you getting caught up in that. We're running towards it in bulletproof vests with
training,
with the tools to combat that. And when you run towards something with a video camera out, you're compounding the situation. You're making it actually more difficult for not only the people involved, but maybe more difficult for yourself if you should be the unfortunate recipient of one of those rounds. So,
well, Commander Sargent, this is a lot of information, and I would love to have you back on to discuss this more. And congratulations on getting the coin out there. You can tell that you guys put a lot of effort and thought into this. You do a great job up here, and thank you for leading for example for the rest of the community. Do you have any final thoughts before we go real quick?
Just thank you for your time, and I'm just representing here. There's a number of officers in our community that go out there and are the definition of nobility in policing, and I hope that our local community realizes that.
And they are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Safe and Sound, and we'll see you next month.